Coming up on the I'm a Car Chick podcast, part 1 with guest Sandy Zannino.
I have a lot of respect for this group, and in particular for the COO. I left because I wanted to go work for him. Brilliant man. Because I love learning. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, which was why I took the job. But back to imposter syndrome, what I found out was that was not true. There can be a tendency to put profit before people. And I have always thought that's a huge mistake.
Ew, it's gross, and they don't make any money. I was like, you don't even know how much money they make. Like, with how much you already know. But it took until last year for me to make that realization and that connection to even talk to him about it.
That he loves cars, and there might be something for him. Sometimes I just know something is, I'm right. I know I'm right about this. We're getting ready to have a crisis.
Revving up the auto industry, one conversation at a time. Featuring industry leaders, auto experts, and trailblazers. We are bringing you unfiltered interviews highlighting the voices all around the industry. Let's cut through the noise. Join us. Let's light it up together. Hosted by Shasta Haddock. This is I'm a Car Chick podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the I'm a Car Chick podcast. And what does one do as a car chick other than talk to other car chicks, right? That's what we're here to do. This person is a good friend of mine. We met, I can't even tell you how many years ago without aging us, but years ago at a digital dealer conference, and have stayed in touch ever since. And I saw recently that she is getting ready to start up her own podcast. And I was like, come to me and I will tell you all my secrets. And we're going to get you on the podcast so that we can shout yours out. So without further ado, welcome my friend, Sandy Zannino. Hello, Sandy.
Hello, Shasta. Now you have me thinking, what year was that? I think it was 2019.
That sounds about right.
I think it might have been 2019. And
I know that my first digital dealer was 2016, and then I missed one somewhere for the next couple years and then went back to a couple others. So I've just got sporadic attendance.
Or it could be 2018.
Could be.
I was there. Anyway, but it's somewhere back around there.
I think you had the boot. But
then it was 2020. Everybody thinks that I still have the boot.
I don't know how, but that followed you so long.
It has. Somebody asked me, where's your scooter? I'm like, I'm walking now. It's really funny. But I tell you, I do miss the scooter.
It's easier to get around.
Well, not just easier to get around, but for space, how you have the hula hoop for personal space. That scooter gave it to me right away. And I tell you, what I didn't get was sick. I didn't get the conference crud when I had the scooter, but it's funny. Things follow us.
Yeah, for sure. So I give the audience, if they don't know who you are, which I don't know how they couldn't, but in case they don't, give the audience a little bit of an intro about who you are and how you found your way into the industry.
So I am sure that there are plenty of people who have no idea who Sandy Zannino is, right? And coming into the industry, I did not grow up thinking that I wanted to be a car chick. Did not. It was not my bright idea. I just kind of fell into automotive, truly by accident. Interestingly, that is something that is my latest passion that I want to change, and that is what my podcast is about, right? So and so maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later, or my podcast when I get it off the ground. There's a lot to doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Right? So so one of the things that I appreciate about my network of women in automotive, right? Like you, it's a great example. Shasta, you're like, Sandy, how did you put it? Come to me and I'll tell you, right? I don't have to do things all by myself, which is a blessing. So I fell into automotive. I was working as for a commercial real estate appraiser, actually. And the office behind me I didn't really realize there was the dealer principal, for Wild Automotive Group, which they have since sold. So Mark Wild and Dean Palmer, who was the CFO, he was a VP CFO. And me being me, like I'm pretty outgoing. And I started talking with them. And the next thing I know, they asked me if I was interested in an office job. And it was their first corporate office. Well, I had no idea what I was getting into. I knew nothing about the car business. I was a customer of theirs, but didn't even realize it. I had bought my Honda from their Honda store.
Nice.
And so I started with them and jumped in head first and really fell in love with the people. And here I am. That was in 1998. Now I'm aging myself. And here I am. Here I am that many years later. And I have because of that experience, 20 years I worked for them. Because of that experience, working with them, my experience is wide and varied. Like OEM communications. I was the dealer's assistant. I ran the corporate office, and I really created the entire HR department. And I always loved HR. I don't know why. I was always that employee who like read the fine print on the I-9 form. That was me.
Nobody does that.
Nobody does that, but that was me. And what happened was like I would notice things. I realized like, hey, I don't think people are getting benefits when they're supposed to. So I took that on. Then I took on 401k. Then I took on, usually something would happen, right? And I would come in and fix it. I became the person that the controllers and the office managers, if they got something in the mail that had fine print and needed to be read, if it needed to be figured out, they'd just send it down to me. And then in 2017, 2016, I was recruited to a larger group. And that was a wild and wonderful experience. And it was a short experience as well. And because HR is not considered a profit center in a dealership. I like to think of it as we're protecting profits, we're saving profits, but there actually is money that can be found. I've saved lots of money. So then I started, after that ended, I didn't really want to go work for another dealer group. So I opened IAHR, and, I'm an HR consultant mainly for dealers. I do have and have had, plumber, AC, CPA client. And, I love what I do. I love helping. I love culture. I love compliance, getting the basics straight. And then you can work on culture and training. I love training. I love helping managers know how to protect the profits that they work so hard to make.
There's a couple of things that I want to be sure to hit on. First off, you mentioned you were with the same group for 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
20 years, and then left to go to a bigger group. How hard was it for that other company to recruit you after you'd had that much tenure in one place?
It took 4 months. They reached out to me, and Automotive, there's a whole story behind that, but it took 4 months. The COO reached out to me, and I went and talked to him because I heard somewhere you should never not take the meeting, right? And we have a challenge in Automotive with paying certain roles what they're worth, right? And because this group was so big, they wanted to like throw money at me, right? In a way. So it did. It took a long time and a lot of conversations. And actually, I turned it down once. I turned the job down once.
Yeah.
And that was a really a learning and growing experience. The role that I ended up taking was, because it started out as the HR director, and a gentleman came along at the same time I was interviewing, and he just kind of like showed up at the door. And the COO told me about this. Now I'm going from 250 employees to a group that's going to have 1,200 very soon, right? So there was a part of me, that imposter syndrome that a lot of women in the industry talk about. What this experience actually taught me. So to make a long story short, what happened was that the COO saw me as the assistant director to this guy that came along that worked for a big group in Ohio as HR director. And I got there, and at the time I said, I would be open to that because it's such a big change, and I don't know if I'm ready. I would like to have a mentor. I've never had an actual mentor, somebody who had me by the hand and was helping me learn and helping me grow. And what I discovered when I got there is that I was ready. I could run circles around, and so, they ended up changing the entire HR department. they laid both of us off and hired somebody who was a controller. It's interesting. I love our industry, right? Because they wanted to have payroll directly responsible instead of having it under the controller. They wanted payroll under, but I had a lot of fun there, and I still have a lot of friends from that group, which, that's, so then, I was like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Cause I didn't want to move. I had a 13-year-old. I did spend like 3 days in fetal position. I'm not going to lie.
It's just wild that they would go through that much work to
get me,
get that much talent, pay you for it, and then
yeah, but it's stories that I've heard before. I don't know. I think I have a lot of respect for this group, and in particular for the COO. I left because I wanted to go work for him. Brilliant man, brilliant, because I love learning, right? And I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, which was why I took the job. I thought okay, let me get somebody who's got more experience.
Did you know that there's a monthly newsletter where you can keep in touch with everything the I'm a Car Chick podcast is up to? There is. Check out the show notes below, and you can also follow us on all social media and stay in tune with whatever we're up to.
But back to the imposter syndrome, what I found out was that was not true. Right? That wasn't true. I don't know. I think sometimes in our industry, I was just talking about this with somebody. There can be a tendency to put profit before people, and I have always thought that's a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Because with the Wild Group, people came first, and what the results of that was 23% turnover, because I measured turnover right throughout the group. People that stayed, right? Happy people. Right?
Yeah.
Happy people, happy customers. CSI was always fantastic. It's and profits were great. That's the result of putting people first. And I think it's, we have, there's quite a bit of profit before people. And maybe that's part of I don't know.
So when you have that low of turnover, do you find it imperative, whether it's you or somebody else in the organization who would do it, but to do exit interviews with people who do leave to find out what opportunities there were to do better?
I think that exit interviews sometimes I think they're good. I love talking to employees. I prefer actually stay interviews. Right. I want to talk to the people who are staying and figure out why, what are we doing right, as well as what we might be doing wrong. I think sometimes in exit interviews, and it's hard to do because And HR is so bogged down, right? Like, we do a lot. HR and HR department has to do a lot.
Yeah.
And dealers hopefully are moving toward technology to help to do more with less, right? But between the onboarding and the onboarding and offboarding could be just one person's job, depending on how, or more than one. Talent acquisition, right? Recruiting, all of these things. But so it becomes hard to keep track of exit interviews.
Yeah.
And unless you're probably able to automate those now too, right? Do it in an email and set it up, but send it out after maybe even a month later, 3 weeks. Don't do it right when they're leaving. If you're trying to find out the real story, because human nature is human nature.
Yeah. Let all the feelings dissipate.
Let not just the feelings, but also let them get in with their new job. Right? Because they're in a place of flux and change, and maybe they might want to come back. So they might not tell you, they might not tell you the truth. You want to hear the truth. But honestly, for me, what I recommend whenever I've coached and somebody that's my favorite kind of client, actually, it's a terrible model because I coach them out of being a client, right? And somebody who says, okay, we need an HR manager, so I'm going to take the HR payroll clerk and make this person HR manager, right? One of the things that it's hard to demand, but I highly, highly recommend and encourage that they do rounds, that they're not HR that nobody sees unless there's a termination, that they get to know people, that they become,
you've got to be trusted.
And that is the bottom line right there. That is what begins to create the trust. And it's not like just connecting with people, because I did that naturally, right? I think maybe because I'm so extroverted, right? And I did that naturally. And there were things that I was able to accomplish on the ground.
Yeah.
That the group didn't necessarily want to take the time to do. Training managers on HR stuff. They just, get everybody. Nah, it's too much. Besides, HR meetings are boring. Meetings are boring. Who wants to go to a meeting?
Right.
So what I learned to do was I would have learning conversations with the managers. They began to trust me. And as I was learning too, I was really blessed. I got basically trained by a Fisher Phillips attorney. Our attorney, that's basically who trained me, right? And that took me. That's how I kind of got some credibility, because what would happen, Shasta? Okay, like something would happen, and they would come to me. I would say, this is what I see. This is what I think we should do, blah, blah, blah. And they would say, let's call David. Right? So we would call David, and 99% of the time I was right.
Good.
Right. So that helped me build the credibility, right? And the trust with managers too, because trust goes,
you can't buy it
all ways. You can't buy it. And another thing about HR that I have a firm belief that a lot of HR doesn't believe this, that HR is customer service.
Mm-hmm.
It's customer service. I am serving the dealer, the company. I'm serving managers, and I'm also serving employees, which I think that if we started looking, or if retail, automotive, would begin to look at their employees like their internal customers and treat them with the same care and respect and transparency and openness, and creating a value proposition that they do for their external customers, we'd go a long way in reducing turnover. But
Well, and I mean, how often are dealerships losing business? Because, I mean, we'll just look at the sales side because your salesperson left and went to a different store and you had loyalty built with the salesperson and not the dealership. So you follow that salesperson to a different store. And I mean, just things like that where,
it
I
totally
mean,
is what happens.
and that right there saves money.
Well, I mean, the other thing too, right? A new salesperson, it takes like 3 years for them to reach their highest potential, is
Phew.
my understanding. So if you're running a revolving door, even if you're trying to train the green peas,
Mm-hmm.
you're, it's I mean, we could talk about, I've been talking about how to fix this. And we consistently throw things at the wall, right? And we do that, and we do
Yeah.
that, and we do that. But nothing changes. The needle
Yeah.
doesn't move. Same with the gender disparity. That needle has gone backwards.
Yeah. They were talking about that at NADA at the Women Driving Vehicle Retail event, which you were at, that we're somehow still like around the 17-18% mark and just not making the momentum that we need to. And, I'm by nature a problem solver or you put a problem in front of me and I'm just going to dissect it and get as granular with it as possible. And I think that I can, when I look back to my experience working in the dealership, and it might be similar for you, the entry point for the dealership most of the time for women is either the office, sales, or service.
Or
Probably,
reception.
yeah. Sales.
BDC.
Oh yeah, BDC too. God, how did I miss that one of all people? Jesus.
I know.
But when we look at the schedule and the hours, so we have, I think, higher retention on the accounting office side because they're usually Monday through Friday. That's a schedule that fits with most parents' schedules, and a huge majority of women are moms. And, they say that we're the natural caretakers of the household and we're going to be the ones to make the sacrifice schedule wise first, to cater to our kids as opposed to our husbands or the fathers of the children, so on and so forth. And so we look at the sales schedule, and the sales schedule to this day is outrageous to me. Like, you've got them working bells, you've got them working mandatory Saturdays. Like,
Yeah.
I can't think of another industry that operates that way. Why have we not broken from that model?
Well, if I had the answer to that,
I know.
I'd have
We'd
the
all be
answer to
here.
everything, right? But I do think that I do have a bit of an answer, right? Because we've been talking about this for a long time. And I don't think that there's one answer. And I think what we're doing is trying to put Band-Aids on the symptoms of a larger problem.
Yeah.
And the larger problem for me, actually, when I talked at NADA a couple of years ago, this was what my talk was about this thing. And I gave all the examples about how we are trying to put a tourniquet on these symptoms. High turnover. Another symptom is the gender gap, right? But it's a symptom of the inability that collectively as an industry we have had to creating a culture of inclusion, right?
Mhm.
And to me sometimes I just know something is, I'm right about something. I know it in this like knowing place. I know I'm right about this. And I think, and I've been saying this for years too, I think that the industry is eventually going to be forced into it, right? Because you were just talking about the gender perception really of women versus men in a family, in a traditional family household. And that is something that I think is changing because of younger generations, right?
Mhm.
That we're getting ready to have a crisis. I don't know, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to start the podcast. And the podcast, I'm gonna start talking about that because I'll get down the rabbit hole and we could talk about inclusion and what I think the fix is and how to become an inclusive manager and have a mindset. And it takes work.
Yeah.
It takes work because you have to work on your biases. And if it's human, you have a bias about it. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But
This episode is brought to you by SCP Agency, your one-stop shop for organic social media. Check them out by clicking the link in the show notes or visit scpagency.com.
what in the last couple of years, what has begun to concern me, Shasta, is the labor crisis that we're heading toward. And I understand and believe that AI will help alleviate that. But the fact is, there's two things. The fact is, by 2030, it has been estimated. Now, this was like last year, so I need to double check and see what the new numbers are. But the estimate was that by 2030, we will have a deficit of 5.3 million people in the country to work. And I've been talking about this like pre-COVID, like there is a labor shortage coming.
Yeah.
And it is about numbers. It's about the numbers of working age people that are in the country, right? Who do we have? And this is getting ready to be a big crisis because there's a couple things about it. So we have this huge generation, boomers, right? The boomer generation was gigantic, biggest generation. Gen X is not that big, but we're all pretty much still in the workplace. And millennials are all in the workplace, in the workforce. Get this, in 9 years, right? 9 years. Just think about how short 9 years is. It's so short. Like this month, I'm celebrating 9 years of being an entrepreneur and a business owner. That flew by. 79% of the workforce will be millennial, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha. I know, right? Like your eyes just got big.
As a millennial, that terrifies me.
So, well, you know what? I've talked about this tons of times too, is that every generation looks at the generation behind and ahead of them and doesn't like them, right? Like my kid called me, "Hey boomer," even though I'm like, look, I'm a Gen X. And she thinks Gen Alpha, she's a Gen Z, and she thinks Gen Alpha is out of their minds, right? And we used to think millennials used to be on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Right. As far as, but every generation thinks that, but their wants and needs are definitely different, certainly from boomers, right? Which is where the bulk of the knowledge and experience is. So not only do we have to replace people, we need to transfer this knowledge and experience to these new generations, and then we have to get them to stay. But before we do that, we got to get them to want to come. So that is like thinking about these things. I don't know why I worry about this stuff, but I do. And maybe because this industry I love this industry, right? There's so many amazing people in automotive. So what that led me to is this realization that, you know what? Kids have no idea about automotive as a career path. And I knew from experience with my kid, like they were like, "We're having career day. Can you come and talk about what you do?" To a bunch of the kids. So I talked about HR, but I didn't talk about the industry. Right? And I just think that we need the big part of the idea is that I'd love to have a coalition because this labor shortage is going to affect us all. It's going to affect vendors. It's going to affect retail. It's going to affect OEMs. It's going to affect suppliers, everyone. And I'd love to have like a coalition that did outreach starting in middle school.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so this is what led me to the podcast. This is like an evolution of, all right, start with a podcast, because it's daunting to think about, like, how do you reach middle school? And I started looking local, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to do this right here. Right. And I talked a lot of, there's a lot of resources. There's workforce organizations, local, and, so, but it becomes complicated. Right. And so, but in the end, I would love to see, like, getting involved with organizations like Boys and Girls Club, Girls Inc. especially. Of course, I also want to focus on underrepresented communities in our industry. Women, number one, women of color, right? But people of color, I think we need to spread the good news, because the thing is, if somebody's interested in something, no matter what it is, we have it. We have it.
Yep.
But no kid says, I want to go into the automotive industry.
I think you and I were talking about this the other day, because we actually planned to record this podcast several days ago, and we just got talking so much that we ran out of time.
Yeah, like a whole hour went by. We were like,
we were.
Shit.
But I think it was you that I was talking to about this. My son is obsessed with cars. Can just name cars driving down the street, fancy cars, like knows every model of Lamborghini and Ferrari and Mercedes. And he's been that way. So he's 15 now. He's been that way for almost as long as I've known him. And I got to talking to him one day, and I'm like, why don't you become a tech? And he was like immediately grossed out by it, like, ew, why would I do that? And I'm like, there is almost nobody I know in my personal circle that knows more about cars than you. And you're a teenager, you're obsessed with cars. He's got car posters in his room. He loves cars. And I'm like, why wouldn't you work in the car business? And he's like, ew, that's gross, and they don't make any money. I was like, you don't even know how much money they make. Like, how much you already know, like, you would excel in this.
So,
and it's like, but it took until last year for me to make that realization and that connection to even talk to him about it.
That he loves cars, and there might be something for him. Well, for sure, there's something for everybody in automotive. This is the thing that, if you like accounting, we have accounting. And the great thing is that people can come to automotive and make a great living in many cases without having a big giant student loan, right? Even technicians like UTI. I just found out UTI is like $60,000 to $70,000 for that, to become a technician at UTI. They have a partnership with Ford, because of this. I'm working on a project that I can't really talk about. Oh yeah, like, just put your seatbelt on. But it has to do with technicians, right? So we're doing research and talking to people and about this thing, and how we can get technicians, how we can attract them, but also get them from lube tech to master tech quicker, right? And so I and this is local, small, Sarasota. A Chevy store. It's actually Bradenton, but a Chevy store. They have one kid that they got him to Master Tech in 18 months. Like, he got,
holy crap!
He's making over $200,000 a year.
My goodness.
Yeah. So it is possible. But what I would want to ask your son, like, what is it about the cars? Is it more about the design and engineering? Because there's a whole other part, right? Like, what about checking out what the OEMs have available?
Yeah. There's so much here.
there is so much. There's so much. And there's, that's the news that I want to bring to young people. And so, of course, when it's about Gen X or, youth, I go to my kid. I go to her and I'm like, how? She's like, you need to do a podcast, and you need to be on Instagram and TikTok and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay. So, because
it's true though. And especially if we're trying to get in front of that younger generation, social media is going to be the way to do it.
Yep. She said, that's how you have to do it. That's how you have to do it.
And there's so many, There's so many issues to overcome. And the frustrating thing is, even if we get in front of those kids now, it's another 6 years, 5 years, 4 years before we can even have them. How do we get them integrated earlier? And I know that the issue with that is insurance.
Well, hold on. That is one thing, right? But once they get to like 16, 17, you can do stuff. They can come in. Like, you can't have a 16-year-old working on cars. You can't have them as a technician, but you could do camps. There's so many ways to engage these kids, right?
Yeah.
You could do my larger vision is almost like a mini conference, right? A mini conference where there's workshops. You could do things virtually too. NAMAD has like almost like one. I was talking to Perry about this cool thing that they were doing, but it's like you run a dealership. It's for GMs and for people who want to be a dealer, but the space is virtual, right? We could do that. You could do, so you're using Monopoly money, right, to do the stuff and learn is the thing. We could do this virtually. We could do things that they would have fun and engage with, and then begin them with internships. I mean, there's the possibilities for doing something like this are endless, really, for how we could engage and connect. First, we have to connect with them. Then we have to give them the good news. And then really begin to engage with them. Because you told me, and I'm dying to talk to her. CMA,
Beth,
Liza at CMA is doing something like this. And I just think it's really important. I think it's going to be very important for our industry. So it's my latest passion.
It takes someone at the dealership having that drive and initiative to go into the community and do that educating. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do that planning and to organize it, figure out who all you can touch, that was a bad word, who all you can impact. There we go.
Right.
Who you can impact, and where to start. I remember being in high school and they had a trades program. There was a local technical school that we partnered with. And once you became, I think it was a junior, you were eligible to start taking a class a day or 2 classes a day, something like that, at the tech center. And the only ones I remember were that they had a nursing class and an automotive technician class. And I think a building trades one too. But I can't remember off the top of my head anybody who did the automotive technician class. And I definitely don't think any of them ended up in the automotive industry, like from my high school class. And so it's like, how is that gap that we're actually starting them out that early? How are we not matching them with careers? If their junior and senior year, they're spending learning all about this trade, can come out with some type of certification when they graduate high school, how are they not automatically having jobs?
You've made it this far, and I have to say thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to rate the show, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, and of course on all social media channels. Light it up.
Your guess is as good as mine. Your guess is as good as mine. I think what we need to think about is that it's not all about money, right? Like, let's take this. This is one technician that they have, right? And he's like, it's about his work ethic, right? It's how he works. And that is what motivates him. So I think that we need to discover what is motivation for the generations, that 79%, almost 80% of our workforce in just 9 years. We need to discover that and then build a value proposition for them with benefits, with flexible scheduling that, we first started talking about. I've heard so many people talk about flexible scheduling as if that's the panacea to have a woman be able to stay. Where in today's world, I notice that younger generation fathers are just as involved in their children's, like all the, when they're young, oh my gosh, I was so grateful that I had an employer because I was a single mom, right? I was so grateful that I had an employer that was like, yep, go to kindergarten graduation. Don't worry about this. Go. But I was able to, do actually work virtually before it was a thing. And, but I think both parents are much more involved than they used to be. And
Yeah.
we need to think about that. Right. And the flexible scheduling isn't going to be just for the females. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny, in my household, I have the more flexible schedule than my husband. Like, and he doesn't work in the auto industry anymore. He's law enforcement, and I had the idea on our daughter's birthday to go surprise her with lunch at the school. And I was like, hey, can you get someone to cover you for like an hour and a half to come surprise her and take her lunch? And he's like, yeah, they said no, we're too short staffed. They're not going to let us go. And I'm like, it's an hour and a half. Like, you're in a town of 12,000 people. What's happening? What are they going to miss you? What are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, they turned it down or whatever. And then it's funny because I'm Facebook friends with several people who work at the PD, and I made kind of like a not really petty, but a Facebook post saying like, I tried to put this thing together and it got shot down, kind of sucks. And one of the guys who works at the PD, who's actually his boss, saw it and said, hey, I'll cover you. You take your daughter lunch. And so he covered him and took him lunch. But like the whole thing is like he misses so much stuff because of his scheduling. And what's funny is like I'm their stepmom. Like I'm not even their birth mom. And I'm at more of their events, involved in more of their stuff than he gets to be because of his schedule.
Yeah. I mean, and that stuff is really important for kids growing up, especially when they're little. Like, I've seen it happen. Like I witnessed it with some of my daughter's schoolmates, see the kid whose mom can't come. It's not that she doesn't want to come. So, I mean, I think it's Tiffany Wells, who said we should never have to put our job before our family or something like that. She also says the new currency is people. And I think she's absolutely 100 bazillion% correct.
Yeah. I always think about like Beaver Toyota and how much they are so people focused. And like, I don't know how it happened, but they became such a pillar to our entire industry of this is how business needs to be done. And I don't know, what magic sauce they have other than the fact that they just care. And if that's just the one simple thing missing, like
it's not that hard. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science. It is not that hard to care about people. I think we get so bogged down, and it can be, in life in the dealership, you can have a customer being upset over here. Like each day, you never know. A GM never knows what the new problem is going to be, right? Like things can blow up over here and blow up over there. And it can, if you're not taking care of yourself, getting enough rest, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, for me is a big thing, right? Like I am unable, if I'm two of those things together, like I can't, don't come at me with anything because I'm not going to react well. But so I think we need to learn how to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others.
Yeah.
I'm doing this WOCAN leadership program, right? Through the Solera is sponsoring it. And it starts out with that. Like you got it, in the airplane, if the oxygen thing comes down, you have to put the oxygen on you first.
Yep.
So I've learned over the years that I have to take care of myself. And sometimes that means not doing certain things, right? Or doing something else, which is actually something that I definitely wanted to talk about on here. The something else that I'm doing that for the last year. Yeah, I don't even know, because I don't really talk about it that much. And I've learned that I'm always learning, right? I guess I'll never be done learning. But I've been doing some work with ACS Automotive, which I'm having so much fun. It so aligns with me. Right. And what it aligns with is what some core beliefs. One, what ACS Automotive is a technology partner for dealer groups, right? For dealerships. We're not really an agency. We do have a portfolio of technology available and from soup to nuts. And part of what I do is vet HRIS system technology for HR, payroll, because we need it, right? The company and the way we bring new technology on, we'll have a client. We have about 2,000 rooftops.
Wow.
That we serve. We have a client that'll say to Nate Seschel, he runs the automotive leg of ACS. So it's ACS Automotive. And they'll say to Nate, I need this, and we go out, we don't charge our dealers anything. We'll go out, vet it, look at all different companies and figure out which are the best ones. And we're not married to anything because the same belief, this is one of my core beliefs. There's no cookie cutter solution because every dealer is unique. Every dealer is unique. We all sell they all sell and service cars, but they do it in different ways with different technology.
Yep.
And nothing talks to the other, which is what ACS is expert at.
Well, and it goes back to that conversation we were having the other day, and without getting into the details of that, but how different parts of the country are. And I went to dealerships in Southern California one time, and I was just I was so amazed at just how different things work there. Like how, here in Podunk, Joplin, Missouri, we barely do any leases. Like leases are less than 20% of what goes in and out of the dealership. And yet in Southern California,
everybody's on a lease, huh?
Yeah, everyone's on a lease. And what's nuts is you could literally throw a stone from one Honda store to the other. And here in Joplin, Missouri, you've got at least an hour between Honda stores. And it's
Wow.
and each of them are selling hundreds of cars a month, and it's oh my God, but it goes to show not everything is cookie cutter because every single part of the country is going to have a different clientele, a different way of doing business, a different cost of living, the cost of everything. Where in the Midwest, you're going to see a whole lot more truck sales than you are in the Northeast,
and motorsport sales, not for fun.
Yeah,
right? I talked to a dealer. And he has a few stores, but he also has some motorsport stores. So I was asking him about that. And ranchers use this, right? People use it for work. Ranchers use it in winter in Montana to fix because they can't ride their horse. Right? So they get on what do they call it? Snowmobiles?
Yeah, Bobcats or...
Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right, Shasta, that things are challenged regionally, right? And so with ACS Automotive, what I'm telling people, because here's the thing I've discovered about myself: I am not a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson, and I'm tired of trying to be a salesperson.
At least you know that about yourself.
Well, this whole learning thing. I'm not a closer. But what I am is a connector. Right. I'm a people person. And so what I've been telling people is this, right? Look, if you are looking for technology in your store, right? If you're vetting people, just talk to me first, even if it's something that you are already looking at, because if they're in our portfolio, we guarantee 3 things. And this is all done by contract, all in the back end. You're going to get the lowest pricing available. You are going to get a separate service lane, right? So if you have 3 stores, you can compete with the Lithias of the world. Right? You're going to get a separate service lane. Plus, we help with that, right? You're our client.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, the separate service lane, the lowest pricing, and your demos, the people you talk to are not salespeople. You are going to be talking to the CEO, the COO, the SVP, that's who you're talking with.
That's huge.
And it makes for a much better experience. Plus, we do all the work for you, right? The things that we will do amaze me because we are able to. We'll do a whole tech stack analysis for free.
That's huge.
Give us the information and we'll do a whole tech stack analysis. So when I'm talking to people, to my dealer friends, I'm just like, just call me. If you're looking for something, call me.
Mhm.
Right. And let me know, because I can check and see if it's one of ours, if it's in our portfolio. I don't want you to pay more than you need to. Right. I want you to get the best service that you can possibly have. And it's pretty awesome. And one way that we are able to save dealers money right off the bat, no hands down, is with telephone services, right? Because remember, this is a vertical of a big giant company that services Fortune 500. They've been doing technology forever. They are the real tech people, right? So they know connectivity and things that I'm just learning how to talk about.
Yeah.
But we also bill, we bill millions of dollars a month collectively with the big company, the parent company, a lot to the AT&Ts and the Verizons and this and that. So we get better pricing right away.
There you go.
So y'all, if you're looking, call me.
I love that.
Yeah.
But the other cool new thing you've got coming up, we've talked about a couple times, is the podcast.
Yes, the podcast.
And I want to talk about what birthed that. And I know we've covered a little bit, trying to fight the employee shortage and the talent pool that we have. But what's the ultimate passion driving the creation of the podcast?
So
Stay tuned for part 2.
at SEMA, a couple of years ago at SEMA, I talked at SEMA, and I went to a session where I was entranced. This man wrote a book called, I think it's called Untapped Resource, right? And what he believes is, because of the labor shortage, foreign-born workers, because the Bureau of Labor Statistics measures this stuff, because family was one of the main values. I'm pretty sure they have paid maternity, paternity leave. Right?
That's so needed. The paternity leave is so low in this country.
It's so hard. I remember I was a single mom early. I had to work. Ariana was 2 weeks old and I was in doing payroll.
Grapes.